news and events. And today we have Dr. Stately on, so go for it.
Yes, it is Monday. Bonjour, Anin, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Giniw Ikwe with Native Roots Radio, coming at you with some news. This is a really interesting event for anybody who's interested in Ojibwe culture. This Friday, December 10th at 10 p.m., Dennis Jones and Anton Truyer and Dustin Burnett, are going to be sharing traditional winter stories, both in Anishinaabe which is Ojibwe language, and in English. The event is free and open to the public online, and it is available online virtually via Zoom, but you do have to register at the Bemidji State University American Indian Resource Center. So make sure to go and check out BSU's website, take a look for the American Indian Resource Center, and tune in for that event. It's this Friday, December 10th at 7 p.m. for Ojibwe Winter Stories with Dennis Jones, Anton Truyer, and Dustin Burnett. I will probably be tuning into that and listening this Friday myself. I'm really excited for that. Winter is story time in the Ojibwe culture, so it is it's going to be kind of my opening event for Winter Story Time. Coming up the following weekend, artist Jonathan Thunder is doing a guided painting with the Creating Passions in Recovery group. It's going to be at the old community center in Mille Lacs, which is across from Grand Casino Mille Lacs on Highway 169. It's going to feature comedy from Mike Early, and it starts at 4 p.m. on December 18th, 2021, again at the old community center in Mille Lacs on the Mille Lacs Reservation across from the casino. Jonathan Thunder does some fantastic artwork, and I know that he's currently got a large moving piece that's displayed at the Minneapolis airport. My mom and I happened to see it when I had to take some time off. I was traveling, was at the airport, and it's a beautiful video and audio piece talking about Ojibwe stories, and there's Ojibwe language, and just it's so hard to put into words, but it's absolutely beautiful, and it would be great to be able to do a guided painting with John Thunder, so make sure you are able to tune in for that one if you're available. In water protector news, the International Indigenous Youth Council is going to be hosting a holiday bazaar on Sunday, December 19th from 12 to 6 p.m. The holiday bazaar will be supporting water protectors and land defenders on the front lines of Line 3. They will have healing, spoken word, and Native and BIPOC vendors and healers, and it's an easy way for you to come support the front lines and also buy holiday gifts for your friends and family. Again, that's December 19th from 12 to 6 p.m. The address is 788 East 7th Street, St. Paul, and downtown area. I don't know, Robert, is that near downtown St. Paul, 7th Street?
Yes, it is. It's on the way to downtown.
Okay, yeah, I'm not a St. Paul person. I chuckled on my travels back to Minnesota. I sat next to a woman who said she was from St. Paul. And she said, and I am from St. Paul and not Minneapolis. And I want you to know the difference.
Yeah. Well, I agree with her.
I chuckled and thought of you when she told me that. So, here in Minnesota with the Line 3 pipeline, there's been a lot of arrests and a lot of escalated charges for our water protectors. But I wanted to bring up the story that I read on The Intercept a little bit earlier in November, and I haven't really gotten too many updates for it. But Amber Ortega was arrested for blocking construction on sacred lands in southern Arizona for Trump's border wall. And she's faced trial in Tucson now. She's a member of the Haya Sedodom tribe and was arrested for blocking the border wall construction, which threatened a sacred desert oasis for her tribe. And basically, this was a low-level misdemeanor that would normally be handled with a trespassing ticket, but her and one other woman were strip searched, shackled, and driven to a for-profit jail 130 miles away, where they were then held incommunicado without access to a lawyer for nearly 24 hours. Does that sound familiar to you, Robert?
Very familiar. It sounds like a game plan, right?
Exactly. So there was a court-appointed lawyer who told Ortega that efforts to fight her charges, which carried a maximum of a 6-month sentence, were likely to fail. And she's now switched attorneys, but basically Water protectors and land defenders in the South through the Water Protector Legal Collective are asking for help. You can send your letter of support to help Amber Ortega at protectamberortega@gmail.com. You can send those all the way up until the 15th of December, and wanted to make sure to point this out, that this is not just happening here in Minnesota. Our relatives all over Turtle Island are fighting these kinds of battles.
Mm-hmm.
And, in environmental news, it's December and there's no snow in Denver yet, and that hadn't been recorded at all. Denver, Colorado with no snow in December is absolutely unheard of, and kind of makes me nervous. Although I'm grateful for the snow we got here in Minnesota, I'm nervous to hear that other places aren't getting that needed snow that they desire. And then in Oregon, the developers are canceling the LNG export terminal, the Oregon pipeline, off the coast. So the LNG export terminal on the West Coast was officially abandoned as of Wednesday, and they're not pursuing the construction of the Pacific Connector pipeline nor the Jordan Cove export terminal in Coos Bay, Oregon, because they were unable to obtain necessary state permits. So a win for the anti-pipeline movement over there on the West Coast as well.
One in a row. We'll take that.
Exactly. We'll take anything we can get at this point in the pipeline movement. So if you haven't yet, make sure you stop over to stopline3.org, or, get involved in your local community, show up for the bazaar, write a letter to your senators and to your representatives and tell them that the environment is important to you and that we need a just transition into renewable energy.
Exactly. So we're going to be taking a break here soon, Ogimaa. We got like a minute left, and then I think what we'll do before Dr. Stately comes on is take some calls, and maybe you and I can have a chat. Now that people that can hear us on Facebook and YouTube, that was my bad. I apologize.
Yeah, everybody, the holidays are coming up, so just make sure that you are being generous with our relatives and making sure to take care of one another.
Yeah, definitely. And also we really need to support our relatives. It is really cold down here in the Twin Cities. It's below zero wind chill when I woke up. So we need to reach out to our relatives that are not homeless. They haven't been homeless since 1491, but that story. Hey, Beanie Gigi Ogimaa will be up next, and then Dr. Stately later on. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Stay with us.
For too long, American Indian tribes have faced a competitive disadvantage when litigating against powerful forces. With its American Indian law and policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand in hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Bijou. I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Oh, hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and that was Precious Anna Ogimaa, your daughter. I always smile and love hearing that. So let's chat a little bit about maybe one of the news things that sticks out to you, Ogimaa. What do you think about that for the next segment?
I think I could probably do that if we're waiting for people to call in. If you want to talk on Native Roots Radio, or you got something you'd like to share with us or like us to talk about, call 952-946-6205. I think what really, something that I actually didn't get a chance to share in my news today, but that hit me, and I think we talked about this a little bit later, but just kind of the importance of this. The Iroquois national lacrosse team was excluded from competing in the 2022 World Lacrosse Games, and they were excluded because the organizers said they weren't from a sovereign nation. Eventually, the organizers realized that they had made a mistake, as tribal nations are sovereign nations, but it was too late because the top teams were already set to play for 2022. However, the lacrosse team from Ireland didn't think that that was okay, so Ireland withdrew to make space for the Iroquois national for the Haudenosaunee people to come and play. So they withdrew from the competition so the Iroquois national team could have their spot. And now the Iroquois national team is not only going to play for their people, but they're also going to play on behalf of the country of Ireland. And
Wow.
I just think that that's really cool. And special shout out to Giniw Collective for sharing that today to remind me of that awesome thing that happened this year. You know, there's a lot of bad things that happened in 2020 and 2021, but there are some good things that have happened.
Absolutely. And Native Americans have had a great relationship with Ireland, and I know there's a big memorial out there because during the potato famine, and I can't remember what Native nation gave money to Ireland, and they've been forever indebted hundreds of years later. I don't know if it's hundreds, but it's 100 years later.
Right. Yeah, it was the Choctaw Nation who sent $170 to help during the potato famine. And there is a monument in Ireland. It's called the Kindred Spirits Choctaw Monument, and it's in Middleton, Ireland. And if I remember right, and it's been a long time since I've looked, but like $170 at the time that the Choctaw Nation sent it was a lot of money. Like that was a huge donation for the Irish people. And it was, I think, most of the money that the Choctaw Nation had. But after going through, what the United States government put them through, they couldn't in good conscience not send help if they were able. So, I mean, it's just really a wonderful story for history.
Yeah, again, 952-946-6205. This is your chance. I remember when we first were doing the radio show almost 4 years ago, Ogimaa, we did a show. We were on Saturdays, and we did a show where it's like, hey, give us a call. And it was like, no one called. And you always have to get a primer or somebody to give you a call, and then the floodgates open. But it's funny. It's like, is no one listening to us out there? But again, I want to also in this segment, maybe every segment, I'll just say, hey, a shout out to Wendy. It's her birthday today, and that's where she's at. She's having dinner with her family in New York. And so that's exciting, and we are excited for her to be there with our family. And she's there with a niece, Ogimaa, that just had a baby, and she's helping out with that. And it's funny, you asked too if Wendy's going to fly up to Brainerd there and help you when you have your baby. And she said, yeah. So you got to hold her to it.
Yeah, thanks, Florence Brammer, for posting here. I see Wendy in a couple of hearts, and Kathleen is also posting happy birthday, Wendy. This is going to be known forever now as the Wendy birthday show, I think.
Yeah, we'll have to get Dr. Stately involved too with that. But it's interesting. There's stuff going on. There's things happening online, and I just want to also give a personal shout out. A year ago, Woodstock, she passed away, and I can't think of her first name right off the top of my head. But her daughter had a memorial for her this weekend, and man, she started with McGeezy. She had a show on KFAI, Laura Woodstock, and she was an old Amster gangster, and she passed away a year ago. And it's just like, we think about that as natives, that we'll see our relatives again, but also it's time for younger people, and I mean younger than me, to step up. And I think we see that with Line 3. We've seen that with the Dakota Access Pipeline, that battle that our youngsters, even younger than you, Ogimaa, are picking up the ball and running with it. And I think in a good way. And I think they're more apt to know what language more than my generation, unless you were born on the reservation or in our ways. And I always talk about this too. It's that Ogimaa, that the Religion Act didn't happen until 1978, and I was a junior in high school, to put that in perspective, Ogimaa.
Right. Yeah. My father was born in 1955. So my father would have been 23 when that happened. It just never fails to amaze me how recent this history is with Native people, that the United States has not given us the same rights and freedoms as everybody else. And, the fact that we're still tracked for blood quantum, just like horses and dogs, is something that I think a lot of us natives have a lot of mixed feelings about.
Well, and then we always talk about this too, but blood quantum is to erase us. And the one drop rule with our brothers and sisters of African American descent is to control them. So if you have one drop blood of African American, that was a colonized way, and it still can be oppressive still here in 2021. I always have to think about what year it is because I'm so old, Ogimaa.
It's been a crazy couple of years with COVID, so I totally understand. What year is it? What day is it? What's happened now? Crazy things are happening right now.
Well, I always talk about me being at that age now where I think, 30 years ago, that was the 70s. And it's just like, oh no, 30 years ago was the 90s.
Yeah, 30 years ago was the 90s. I had that recollection, and I was a kid in the 90s. Nancy Bolio just said treaty rights, and they can't even treat us right. And that is absolutely right, Nancy. I'm loving that. I might use that.
I see it.
That should be a t-shirt or a banner or something.
Let's not talk about it anymore and then pretend we came up with it later and not tell Nancy.
I think she's probably listening, but we had Native people who were arrested at the Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C., during the climate rally this past October, just a couple of months ago in 2021. They went and sat down in the office of the Bureau of Indian and Bureau of Indian Administration. What does the BIA stand for again, Robert?
Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Thank you. See, it's Monday. I feel embarrassed that I even had to struggle through that. But, water protectors came in and sat down and took a stand and said, we're not being treated right. Our water is in danger. And, we're arrested and harmed in the process of just trying to make their voices heard, even through the proper channels. So in 2021, here we are still.
Hey, I ran into Gina at with Winona LaDuke. She was hanging with Winona and the Honor of the Earth people when I got that free ticket to go see James Taylor and Jackson Brown. And I let her know when we interviewed her, Ogimaa, you'll get a kick out of this, is that she was tased. Remember that? And
I do,
and then
yeah.
she said, and she didn't realize she said this because I asked her if she knew she said that, and she said it was shock. I was shocked. They tased me, and was like, oh, this is great radio. I can picture that.
Yes, Nancy just posted too. We love Gina Peltier. Gina is amazing, water warrior woman. And I did chuckle when she was on the show. She said, I was tased. I was absolutely shocked by it. And it was so absolutely perfect. And, it, I don't think real life and live radio gets any better than that. That was the best, Gina. So if you're listening, Gina, we love you.
Right, exactly. And shout out, Winona's still out there plugging away. And I just want to say this too, get another plug for the show or for the store. This is the show, and then there's a store called Native Roots Trading Post in downtown Minneapolis in the Dayton's Project. We have a nice space in there. There's Winona autograph books that we're almost out of, and there's also Winona hemp pasta that I said that no one's going to buy this, and we're almost sold out of that too, Ogimaa.
That hemp pasta is actually pretty tasty. I remember the hemp summit this past summer, Winona shared it to us, but it is, a bit of a higher end product to make pasta out of hemp right now until the world gets on board, as Winona would say, with the hemp revolution. The price of hemp won't come down for certain products like that for a little while, but it is absolutely worth it, you guys. It's really good stuff.
I think we got to get her back on and talk about the next revolution, which is the green revolution, and discuss things. Kathleen said, "Yummy hemp pasta. I grow it and make hemp milk too." Wow, hemp milk
hemp
too.
milk.
Kathleen says a lot of things on Facebook. We should have her on her as a guest sometime here, just to see who Kathleen is, and because we really appreciate her chiming in, and she sounds very interesting. She sounds like she's got a lot going on. I think she's from Canada. I'm not sure, but I have a good memory, but short. Hey, hopefully we're going to have Dr. Stately up next. He should be chiming in, and we're going to get some updates. And great talking to you as always, Ogimaa. I know you got a lot on your plate. You're moving, you're pregnant, and you work way too hard for us. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Boozhoo relatives, my name is Deanna Standing Cloud. I'm from the Red Lake Nation, and I live in Minneapolis today. As the weather gets colder, you're probably going to spend more time indoors, but it's important to stay safe and healthy. The COVID-19 pandemic is still not over, and now the flu season is upon us. So protect you and your loved ones by getting vaccinated against both the flu and COVID-19. COVID booster shots have now been approved for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. And you're eligible if you're over 65 and if you're over 18 and have underlying health conditions or work in a high-risk setting. What's cool is your booster shot does not need to be of the same brand as your original series of shots. And you can receive a booster shot of any brand that's available to you. Children over the age of 5 are now eligible for a vaccine as well. So let's protect our relatives in Indian country this winter and get vaccinated. Be a vaccinative like me. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. Miigwech Bizendawian.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Hey, Minnesota, it's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast. We'll expose and make sense of all of our current political nightmares and more every weeknight at 7 on AM 950.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
For too long, American Indian tribes have faced a competitive disadvantage when litigating against powerful forces. With its American Indian law and policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand in hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies overnight with a low around 3, Tuesday cloudy with a chance of snow and a high near 22, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 28. With the holiday season upon us, check out one of the great AM 950 advertisers for your holiday shopping. From delicious restaurants to bookstores, technology to health and wellness and home and auto, you'll find it all at the AM 950 advertisers. Find a full list of our advertisers at am950radio.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, and we're checking in. Dr. Stately is the CEO at the Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, and on the Franklin Corridor, which is a highly old school Native area and historical and really great. And it's good to see you, Dr. Stately. I'm going to give you an opportunity to give Wendy a shout out for her birthday. She's not on the show right now. She's hanging with her I think her cousin. So, trouble's happening in New York right now.
Oh, wow. They should probably do an alert or some type. Let them know she's on the loose.
That's right. So yeah, give her a quick shout out. I'm sure she's listening.
Probably.
So hey, what's going on? What's new? There's so much happening. My head's spinning. If I'm not watching the news, I'm out of touch here each day. So what have you heard on NPR? No, I'm just kidding. What have you heard in all your meetings in the last few days?
Well, I didn't really have any meetings over the last couple of days because it was the weekend. I actually took the weekend off. Hockey was the big issue of the weekend. Actually, we didn't have a hockey game. We ended up having a hockey team party, but just with the adults. Like the kids had open ice for 2 hours, and we went and kind of had a party. And it was pretty fun. I wasn't gonna go, but I'm glad I went. I went by myself. I made this amazing cheese dip thingy that I worked on for hours, and it was awesome. It was amazing. It was delicious. I know I sampled it a couple times while I was making it. And so, 2 things I learned. One is get a crock pot that has a top that locks on it. Really important thing to do when you go to other people's houses, because I tripped walking in the front door, and the pot went, and the cheese dip went on the floor, splashed all over the place. But I made a grand entrance.
In the office.
Hey, Dr. Stately, do you a baseball fan at all?
I grew up watching baseball, but I'm not a huge baseball fan. But
I just want to give a shout out while you were talking about hockey. I was thinking when I was a child, Tony Oliva and Jim Todd were big stars with the Twins, and they just got elected into the Hall of Fame, which
that's awesome.
I'm ecstatic about.
Yeah, for sure.
83 years old. They had to wait 40 some years, but better late while they're still alive.
I mean, I enjoy baseball, but I really love hockey. Like you'll love this story, right? Like a couple of years ago, me and my partner went to a baseball game on what is it, the day they have like Minnesota Recovery Day. So we go went there on that day, and we're watching the baseball game, and we're with our kids, and we're watching, and it was like 1-0 in the first or second inning, and then like 7 innings later, it was still 1-0. And my partner is like, is it still 1-0? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, there's not a lot of action in baseball, is there? I said, no, you don't really come here for the action. You come here for the hot dogs, the popcorn, the beer, the party. Well, we weren't drinking, but like, you know, the fellowship, the friendship, and the laughing and the memories and stuff. That's my interpretation of what baseball is good for.
Right. Yeah. Well, if people that didn't play baseball very well, that's how they feel. But like people
Yeah.
like
Hey, now
major player, I'd probably be in the Hall of Fame too now. I'm 60, so I would have been in for a few years, but
what
drugs.
position did you play?
I played a bunch. I pitched. I played first, third. I was just an all-around stud.
Wow.
Stud back then.
Oh wow, you were an all-around stud. So yeah.
Make that clear, right?
Note the past tense. Weren't we all around studs at one point in time? But anyway, yeah, that's how I spent my weekend. I didn't spend it thinking about COVID-19, believe it or not. I actually think that's a really important topic to talk about too. I think sometimes when you give it too much attention, I kind of talked a little bit about this, I think, last week when I was on, because like, the Omicron or Omicron. I keep messing up. I keep calling it Omnicron. I told somebody, I said, it sounds like it's something from outer space or maybe like a new superhero. Like, I wouldn't mind getting Omnicron if it came with a cape and a mask, kind of thing. I have a sick sense of humor. But the point being is, I think last week I talked about like how, it can be overwhelming to spend too much time focused on it and too much time letting it take up so much space in your psychology, your psyche, and your conversations, too much space in your everyday life. You got to find a window, like give it some attention, but don't let it take up all of your time and take up too much space, because you have to have a window for like, heartful conversations with family and friends. You have to have some space and place for laughing and enjoying life. Humor is really important to us, especially as Native people. We really like humor a lot. It's kind of good medicine. And then you have to like give yourself a little bit of heart space, right? You gotta just, because it is a stressful experience to sort of like have it in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, 24/7. It's exhausting, right? And we also have this psychological principle that we call like, this typical thing, like when people get overwhelmed or overstressed with any one specific thing, they tend to do things like become immobilized. It can mobilize some people, but a lot of people become immobilized by the sheer weight of something, and then they don't do anything, right? They just
analysis paralysis.
Yep. So I think it's important to sort of kind of have a measured approach to it.
Yeah, I just hear little bits here, and it's important. I think what I get is good medicine from you when we talk Mondays, and that's that we still need to talk to our relatives that aren't vaccinated. We still need to talk to our relatives that might be persuasive or persuaded by Republicans. Let's just put it that way, and we need to really just. Before 4 years ago, I really didn't know who people voted for. I mean, you kind of have an inkling like, oh, that person probably voted this way. But now it's really been out there, and I really want to push that back in, Dr. Stately. It's like, I'd really rather see you as a human and how you treat your children and how you treat other people as opposed to who you voted for. And so it's been a struggle for me personally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I completely understand that. Like I said, I spent the weekend, one evening at least, with a bunch of hockey folks in Prior Lake, and they're lovely people. I really like them, but I also know that many of them are, of a particular persuasion with their political leanings, and
I would just pretend I'd spilled cheese dip on them and get it over with, and then just think, "Hey, sorry, Republican House."
Well, I mean, I actually do like these people. I enjoy them. They're a little twisted, I gotta tell you. Like when they had too many drinks, man, those hockey moms, man, they're a little bit, just a little, yeah. here's the line, and they just kind of like danced on for a little while. And then at one point in time, they went over it, and I was like, okay, it's my turn to go go home now.
Yeah. Well, Ogimaa's becoming a hockey mom. Her daughter's playing hockey, and we support that.
Yes.
So Ogimaa, your life's not going to be yours for the next 10 years.
You know what? It's the greatest sport on the planet. You're gonna love it. You're just gonna love it. It's gonna be awesome.
Okay, I hope so, because we're a little bit experienced. I'm definitely not crossing that line as a hockey mom. I'm that hockey mom that goes, are they allowed to do that? I don't know the rules. Like, I still don't know all the rules for the game yet.
They, and then here's the thing is you don't want to cross any kind of hockey moms that are like really like, like robustly a hockey mom. Like, the only things that are more frightening than a hockey mom is the stage mother. Like, like you saw Mommy Dearest, correct? Like, like they, they'll get the wire hangers and go full throttle.
Yeah, that was a great movie. But we also lived through Brooke Shields' mother that was controlling everything. I mean, that was like crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't stop there. It's like, Britney Spears and her dad. And anyway, the point is like, enjoy it. It's a really fun game to watch, and your kid's gonna love it. It's just an enjoyable sport. And if you live in Minnesota, you gotta play hockey. There's nothing but snow and ice for like 9 months out of the year. What else are you gonna do? Okay,
That was kind of my thought signing her up, is that it's a nice long season and it'll keep her busy.
I was an ankle skater, but I look like Henry Boucher with my long hair, and I always wore a sweatband too. And now I see Henry all the time and go, hey.
He was a stud at one time too, by the way.
That's right. That's right. He was. It was good seeing him. What you saw him at where did I see him last? Well, anyways, the great Henry Boucher from
Native Rise, wasn't he?
Say that again?
He was at Native Rise, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was definitely. Yeah. But he was from up in the deep north where he became a professional hockey player and played with the North Stars and the Saints, and he was injured. Warward, and he was injured, and he sued the NHL, and I think he still sees double vision from that stick in his eye. I mean, literally.
Thanks. Gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy. Wow, we've really this is like a balanced show here now. We're not talking about, is there a possibility that this variant is more like the flu than a bad thing? I
think the evidence on that is still out. Like, I don't think I don't think we know really, quite frankly, yet. We've got some anecdotal evidence that seems to suggest, just from what people are observing in like South Africa, that they're the anecdotal observation, which is like, not scientific. A few people seeing some things and then talking about it tend to see these kinds of things. And what they're saying is that while it is highly transmissible, it doesn't seem for lots of people, it has not been much more virulent or causing much more serious sickness. I think that's important to kind of consider.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that if you have time. We got a break here, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we're here with Dr. Stately, CEO at the Native American Community Clinic here in Minneapolis, Twin Cities. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Anna, and I'm 8 years old, and I'm getting my COVID vaccine. If you're between 5 and 11 years old, you can get vaccinated too. Getting the jab might seem a little scary, but there is lots of good reasons to do it. You'll be protected from COVID, and you'll be less likely to spread it to people like family and friends. Have your parents find a vaccination site. by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation. Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Elusive Nation. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakunjahade.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
And it's also from Howling for Wolves.
Oh, are we in Howling for Wolves? Oh, wow, it is Monday. This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Oh, look at the time. It's the last segment.
We should have
Wendy,
just
we miss you.
Yeah, we should have just let Ogimaa howl on that one. Hey, I mean, yeah, so I remember Ogimaa, here's a story too. When we first started the show almost 4 years ago, we were at the studio and it was a great show and blah, blah, blah. And we got all stood up after this and took the headphones off and started walking out. And then the producer said, "What are you doing? You got one more segment." We went, "Oh, okay. Yeah." We thought we dropped the mics and everything. And it was a great show. And it was like, well, we're not done. So we had time to mess the show up even more. But just some fun facts here that, you know, now that we're getting close to celebrating 4 years of being on the air, we're here with Dr. Stately. Dr. Stately, we're just kind of chilled today. And, but you were talking a little bit about the possibility of this variant being just almost, I don't know, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you know, I've heard people kind of speculate maybe this might be kind of what we're going to be dealing with every year, is kind of a different variant of almost like a flu. Where it's not
yeah, I mean, I think that there's a couple different ways to think about this. One is that, first of all, the Delta variant, which is also highly transmissible and much more virulent than the original form of the virus. The Delta mutation is still the dominant strain in the United States. Like 99.1% of the cases in the United States currently right now are predominantly the Delta variant. And that's a pretty strong variant, and it's also causing lots of severe illness and hospitalization and death, right? The United States is now surpassing over 100,000, oh, I got money on my brain, 100,000 deaths per day. So, and that's the most we've had since the pandemic started, like from a year ago, right? And then I think that one of the things that's important to think about is, like, you know, we really cannot afford the type of complacency that we have seen with respect to like wearing and vaccination and other and social distancing that we saw earlier on the pandemic. Go to the CDC website and look at their graph of cases and the daily rates of cases over the last 9 to 12 months. It has gone up, it hasn't gone down, and the spikes keep kind of climbing, right? And the things that we know overwhelmingly in this and the evidence that we do have in terms of the data meaning data doesn't lie, case rate data anyway. Overwhelmingly, the majority of new cases that ended up in severe illness and in hospitalization and in death, overwhelmingly, are among people who are not fully vaccinated, meaning they have not gotten, at least 2 doses of their full series, and if they 6 months out and haven't gotten their booster shot, I think they're a little bit more vulnerable. That's an important thing to remember in this, right? And because this new variant is a very, very, very small portion of the new cases. So we haven't finished this other fight yet. So let's not turn away from this other fight and be worried about something that is just kind of on our front doorstep, right? Worry about the thing that's in the house, not on the front doorstep.
Wow, good analogy. I think that's a T-shirt too. I don't know how we can make that happen, but we could sell that at the store, I'm sure. But yeah, I appreciate that, because that is kind of a wake-up call for me, because everyone's kind of focusing on this new variant and what it can do, and so that's I dig that. I
And I
appreciate
think they're both important to pay attention to. And I think the thing that you want to pay attention to is the fact that what we are seeing is the longer we go as a nation, the longer we go as a global population in not prioritizing getting as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible, we will continue to see variants of concern. We will continue to see those things happen. And that's why it's important for every single one of us to do our part. We can't kind of stand back and go well, my neighbor isn't vaccinated, so I'm not going to get vaccinated. Or, I know somebody over in France that hasn't gotten vaccinated. They must be not that too concerned about it. It's kind of like I have these conversations with my sons all the time about well, other people aren't doing it, so I'm not going to do it either. I'm like, you really need to not worry about what other people are doing. You need to think about what you're going to do.
Well, it's funny too. A lot of the right says that we're sheep and we're all this, and it's like going, well, if they were hiding stuff in this vaccine that was going to make me into a part robot, I'm not who they should be doing that to, because I'm complying. I already am sheep, It's like I don't know if I said that right, but you kind of know what I mean.
I don't know. If somebody said that to me, and I can imagine somebody. I live in a purple county. I would imagine I'd say something like, "Well, I'd rather be a sheep, a live sheep, than than a Sherpa jacket. I guess I don't know."
Hey, do you see Shelly's question up there on the screen?
What? Where? Oh, are they going to have boosters for kids 12 and plus? I think that we will eventually get there. I just think that there has to be some more research done on it. Kids think about boosters and the whole idea of boosters and third shots as being the evidence for these things seems to suggest that over time your immune system sort of has less ability to respond. Kids commonly, by the time you get to be my age, 50 something, and or in your later years, your immune system is starting to sort of wane anyway. You need a lot more support, right? So that's why boosters and third shots are really important for people who need that extra protection. You're supposed to be talking to your doctor about a third shot. Everybody the evidence is overwhelmingly everyone who's sort of at the 6-month window of having their second shot in their series should be thinking about getting a booster. I would imagine, so the majority of kids 12 and above are sort of kind of right at sitting there somewhere between 5 and 6 months. I would imagine that at some point the FDA and also the CDC will sort of kind of take a look at that and make some decisions about that. But there's a lot that kids are virulent. They're strong. They're resilient, really.
Well, I can't wait for my fourth shot, so I'm ready. I just don't know which arm to put it in.
I told my sister-in-law she should, like, if she was worried, she should take it, go ahead and just put it in her butt. But she said, "No, I sit on my butt all day. I can't. That would hurt."
Oh, okay. Hey, we made it through a show, Ogimaa, even though we were ending it sooner or we were stretching it out longer. I can't remember.
I think I was trying to stretch it out, but we did make it through. Thank you, Dr. Stately, as always.
You're welcome.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to end with these thoughts. If you're listening to this show, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plentycoops. The ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to divest, resist, join a group and run for office and absolutely get vaccinated. We're still here. We are the 7th generation. Free Leonard Peltier now.
Ain't got